Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. We begin in Saskatchewan, where the chief of the Kettle Nakota Nation says police are still searching for what he says are suspects. This follows the deaths of 2 women and 2 men found in a home on the north side of the First Nation on Tuesday morning. Chief APTN also says the File Hills Police Service is still patrolling the nation to make sure everyone is safe. Saskatchewan RCMP say they're still not able to name the 4 victims as they're working with the Saskatchewan Coroner Service and the families to formally identify the bodies. Creason Ashkate has more.
When the File Hills Police Service arrived at the residence, they located 4 individuals deceased inside and immediately determined the circumstances to be suspicious. As a result, the Saskatchewan RCMP Major Crimes Branch was contacted to assist and has since taken carriage of the investigation. At this point, we do believe that the residence was targeted.
Saskatchewan RCMP are still determining whether the Carry the Kettle and Zakame Anishinaabeg incidents are related, and if 29-year-old Keegan Panapakisik is involved in the 4 deaths. Panapakisik was arrested by Regina police in the city early Wednesday morning and was the lone suspect named by RCMP. He is alleged to have been part of a firearm incident in Zakame Anishinaabeg on Tuesday afternoon, about 4 hours after police found the 4 deceased in CTK. Panapakisik has been charged with 1 count of pointing a firearm and 1 count of possession of a firearm. Regina police also arrested 2 other people Wednesday morning but did not release their names. On Tuesday, Cowasis and Ochapowace First Nation west of Zakame named 2 suspects, Panapakisik and a female suspect, as peoples of interest following the firearm incident, but RCMP has not named that female suspect. Meanwhile, Carry the Kettle has lit a 4-day healing fire, and its hall and youth center are open to offer mental health assistance and support. In a statement, Chief Ashapi said police have received many leads in the investigation. He added, "I want to send a special thanks to all those that have come to sit with us last night, prayed for us, and the calls and messages. To my other family nations, we appreciate all the reach-outs, support, and most importantly, the love we have felt in the last 24 hours." RCMP Major Crimes remains on scene in CTK and continues their investigation this week.
The government of Manitoba has recently made an announcement for a new Indigenous-led safe consumption site in Winnipeg. However, they are still in talks about where the location will be. Tyler Shingus has more on that.
As consultations continue about where to put a safe consumption site, some residents in the neighborhood where governments and organizations want to put it say their feelings are not being heard.
You know, Point Douglas is often the place where things are put.
Christine Kirawak lives in Point Douglas. She attended a community consultation about the proposed site on January 16th.
Through that meeting that I came away with from Aboriginal Health and Wellness was a lot of placating and a lot of condescension, saying, well, you know, if you are opposed to any of this, it's just because you don't understand addiction as a disease.
Greg Robson also lives in Point Douglas. He is concerned about placing the site in an already struggling neighborhood.
This is the only neighborhood in the entire city where you can use. You can walk up and down Main Street. You don't believe me? Walk up and down Main Street.
With a high school across the freeway, Robson worries about the effects the site will have on the local youth.
Here's the thing. Every politician I've ever heard, when they campaign, will say, our youth are the future. But as soon as they're elected, that kind of goes out the window. And the safe injection site, so close to schools, is a testament to that.
The Aboriginal Health and Wellness team is in partnership with the province to set up the site. They say 7 community consultations have taken place. City police and a mobile community patrol have been in the meetings. So have physicians with addictions expertise. The Wellness Center says they are looking at the data from these meetings. Another concern is the number of mental health crises where community members have been assaulted.
And one of the ones that's very scary to me, that has been very minimized, is psychosis. Psychosis, and how dangerous it can be to the individual who is experiencing psychosis and to the community and surrounding members of our community.
When asked about what can be done to help ease these concerns, Robson spoke about the lack of readily available traditional healing.
You know, when we look at the different temples and religious places that are here across Manitoba, but specifically to Winnipeg, you know, it's really unfortunate that we don't have a designated area in Winnipeg for Aboriginal peoples to have spiritual practices.
There is no final decision on where the safe injection site is going to go.
At the end of the day, you know, what it really comes down to is our community's well-being.
APTN reached out for comment from the MLA for Point Douglas, Bernadette Smith, who is the Minister for Housing, Addictions and Homelessness. In a statement that a ministerial spokesperson wrote, 200 Disraeli Freeway is located where there are higher rates of homelessness and substance use, and first responders report a need near the proposed site. The plan is to increase access to supports such as healthcare, addiction services, and mental health supports. Tyler Shingus, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
A new affordable housing development had its ribbon-cutting ceremony on Monday in the Griesbach area of Edmonton. APTN's Chris Stewart got to see the new building firsthand.
The Otipemisiwak Métis government, formerly known as the Métis Nation of Alberta, are putting the final touches on the Cecil Belrose Manor. It's named after the former president of what was MNA Region 4 in Alberta, who passed away in 2021. On Monday, they gave a tour to media of the 127-unit building. It will have 42 barrier-free suites with accessibility for disabled people, 10 fully automated suites, a gym, and childcare for its members. The rent will be set at a lower rate than those offered in the city. This will allow families to afford to stay.
We are very excited to be here today and to officially cut the ribbon for the Cecil Belrose Manor. This is a project that our housing corporations have been working on for a long time in collaboration with the City of Edmonton, Canada Lands, and we're really excited that we're going to be, getting more people into stable housing, more of our citizens into stable housing.
President Andrea Sandmeyer says high living expenses make it harder for people to stay afloat. She says they are prioritizing single mothers.
It's an expensive life right now, and we need to make sure that they're able to, buy groceries and do the things that they need to do and have a safe place for kids. And it's putting a dent in it, but we have a lot more to do.
She says they are looking for partners to build more affordable housing for their citizens around the province.
When we can put 4 walls around a family and give them a warm place to call home, I think they're going to thrive. They're going to be able to have a happy home and be able to have a great life.
Families are expected to move into Cecil Belrose Manor this spring. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
A new program has been launched for Indigenous peoples looking to get into journalism. Details on that and more after the break. Welcome back. A Montreal and Nunavik-based Inuit women's group is taking the issue of domestic violence into their own hands. And as APTN Savannah Craig reports, Sattervit Inuit Women's Association of Nunavik is teaching Inuit women and in and outside of Nunavik how to react to intimate partner violence through self-defense.
The best weapons that you have as a woman are your hands and especially your nails. And those are lethal.
This Inuit women's group is teaching women how to protect themselves through self-defense.
So can you imagine if I raked you with fingers, that would hurt.
Sattervit Inuit Women's Association of Nunavik is hosting workshops in and outside of Nunavik. The group is teaching self-defense tactics for women to react in situations of domestic violence.
We teach in this program, some basic hand gestures that can actually protect you in an assault.
Nancy Ann Gray is the executive director of Satravit. She's running the program.
Where's my face? In between your... There it is. Grab it. Grab fingers into the eye.
I'll just pretend.
And pull back.
These workshops were recently hosted in Montreal, Kuujjuaq, and Pervernatuk. Gray says the need to teach Inuit women how to defend themselves signals to a larger issue.
There's a lot of intimate partner violence. There's a lot of domestic violence that's happening in Nunavik. It's also happening, elsewhere in Canada. Between 80 to 90% of Inuit women are facing conjugal domestic violence with intimate partners in Nunavik.
She says her desire to teach other Inuit women stems from her own experience with domestic violence.
I was tired of having black eyes. I was tired of getting bruised on my body. I was tired of not being able to defend myself or my children. And I know that I'm not the only one. I know there's a lot of women that feel that way. So I thought, why not have a self-defense course starting in Nunavik, but by Inuit women?
The group suggests these tactics as an emergency response.
I have no way of stopping this large, angry, drunk man.
And that if an individual must defend themselves, the first step is to leave the situation immediately.
So I'm not going to do that, but I will be able to take care of the children, move them out of the situation, call the police.
Gray recommends the individual goes to a shelter or stay with a friend. But support services in the north are limited, with only 70% of 51 Inuit communities in Canada not having access to an emergency shelter, according to Indigenous Services Canada.
Pull, hand in the face, and find the eye, and push.
Rob Andres is a violence prevention specialist with Street Safe Self-Defense Training Company. He says these workshops teach women about more than just self-defense, including the cycle of violence.
Now, all of a sudden, we start coming back around this cycle where alcohol is reintroduced, the argument starts, the violence becomes prevalent, the victim becomes injured, and then the love bombing cycle happens again. And what we are trying to do through this program is educate women on how to identify it and how to manage it.
The course also addresses the cycle of intergenerational trauma. Gray says to permanently end this issue, support needs to be provided for both parties in a couple.
I know that the abuser usually has gone through so much trauma as well as an individual, and they deserve recovery as well. So I think that a focus on both the abuser and the abused and education about violence would be a great way to reduce violence.
Satravit will continue to offer these classes to Inuit women outside of Montreal.
So we're planning to do this every 5 weeks in various communities on the Ongava side, on the Hudson Strait, and on the Hudson coast of Nunavik.
So we teach women to push up on the chin.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
And what we do is...
Carleton University's School of Journalism and Communication in Ottawa has announced its plans for a new program for Indigenous students. APTN video journalist Bruce Dela Cruz has more on this story.
On January 29th, Carleton University launched their certificate program in journalism in Indigenous communities. This one-year program will allow Indigenous students to learn the basics of journalism in the comforts of their own communities.
Today is a historic day. Canada's first journalism school affirms its commitments to the First Peoples of the land.
emceeing the launch was Duncan McHugh, an award-winning CBC journalist and associate professor at Carleton University's School of Journalism and Communication. McHugh is a Anishinaabe and a member of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation in southern Ontario. With 25 years in the business, McHugh can sum up his biggest takeaway from reporting in Indigenous communities in one word to his students.
But it all boils down to respect. Because for so long, our people have not been treated with respect from outsiders. And that is what needs to change with journalism. But we have to understand this history of disrespect that our peoples have experienced when it comes to interacting with all kinds of outsiders, including journalists, and start to act with respect.
Partnering with Carleton University is the First Nation Technical Institute, a not-for-profit organization that specializes in post-secondary Indigenous learning. Adam Hopkins, Academic Senior Vice President, explained the process of students learning in their own communities.
The whole idea of this program is to take the program to the learner and to create space that allows them to keep their commitments. So this program and the programs that Indigenous Institutes offered are focused completely on that typical learner. Bring the programming to them, make sure that the supports are in place to identify what's important to them, and think of really creative ways to ensure that they're successful and that we're doing everything we can be doing to make sure they're successful.
Finally, Hopkins gave his opinion on why it's important to him for Indigenous stories to be told by Indigenous storytellers.
It says to me that the stories that our learners will tell that are in this program are going to be grounded in our ways of knowing. They're going to be grounded in the relationship that we as Indigenous people have to the land, because our stories, our knowledges, are based on place-based knowledge and are tied directly to the land and the relationship that we have with the land.
The first group of students start the program in September 2025. Bruce De La Cruz, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Still to come, we'll sit down for an interview with Natasha Fisher. Stick around. Welcome back. Anishinaabe and Finnish pop singer Natasha Fisher has been announced as an official opener for an OG Cree artist currently on tour. Anishinaabe released the news earlier this week. Intern reporter Veronica Blackhawk caught up with the singer to learn more.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I feel so grateful and excited for the opportunity to open for Anishinaabe at the Access Club here in Toronto, which is like a legendary venue. And, you know, I just really want to give the appreciation and love to Anishinaabe and his team for giving opportunities to independent Indigenous artists.
Hey everybody, I am so excited to announce our first Toronto opener. This is Anishinaabe Finnish singer-songwriter and pop artist Natasha Fisher.
The news couldn't come at a better time for the artist, who was working by herself to write, release, and promote new music. She shares more about her most recent single.
So the song's called Another Stranger. It dropped on January 24th, and it's been my fastest growing song so far.
The emerging artist from Long Lake 58 First Nation, Ontario, grew up in Thunder Bay. Now based in Toronto, the Anishinaabe pop singer is keeping busy.
Being an independent artist, it gives you the independence, like it says in the title, to do whatever you want, release whenever you want, which can come with its own set of challenges because you are doing the load of the work.
And with that independence, Fisher chooses to give back to Indigenous communities, working alongside relative and fellow musician Classic Roots to deliver music workshops to Indigenous communities and more.
So I'm doing a songwriting workshop with the University of Toronto, and that came about because they saw some of the work that I had been doing on Northern communities, teaching songwriting workshops to Indigenous youth on remote communities in Northern Ontario.
Catch Natasha Fisher open for Anishinaabe on March 21st at the Access Club in Toronto. Tickets are available now on Anishinaabe's website.
Meanwhile, a one-of-a-kind Indigenous school music tour kicks off this Monday in Manitoba. The tour will bring musician and Peguis First Nation member Nelson Little to schools across 18 Indigenous communities in the province. Reporter Sierra Bettens caught up with Little and program coordinator Rhonda Head before they hit the road.
For a few years now, I've been trying to find purpose in why I write and what my message is as a writer. And, what I believe in as an artist. So I think speaking and going out to these communities is something I have a passion for.
In less than a week, Indigenous country music artist Nelson Little will embark on a 3-month tour like no other.
This one is one of the biggest tours that we've taken on, and we're going to 18 Indigenous communities right throughout Manitoba, so it's really exciting that Nelson's going to be part of this one of the biggest tours that we're starting.
Internationally renowned Cree vocalist Rhonda Head has organized 5 tours through the Indigenous Touring Program. Funded by Canadian Heritage, the Manitoba Arts Council, and the Manitoba Arts Network, the program brings live music to students in Indigenous communities across Manitoba.
It's important that we do an Indigenous tour because they need to see a brown face who's succeeding in the music industry, where we empower them and we inspire them.
The journey begins on Monday in St. Teresa Point, a flying community about 465 kilometers north of Winnipeg. After stops in Garden Hill and Wasagamak, the tour will visit communities in southwestern, southern, and northern Manitoba.
They're in remote places and they can't leave the community, so it's really exciting that we're going into the community and inspiring youth one community at a time.
Little grew up in northern Manitoba and is a member of the Peguis First Nation. These days, the 3-time Country Music Award winner lives in Portage la Prairie, where he balances being a dad, a musician, and a carpenter.
I'm a carpenter as well. Since 18 years old, I actually worked on the Wasagamak school. So it's going to be neat to speak to those students and let them know that those hallways, when they were steel studs, I was there putting them together and stuff.
While he's excited to hit the stage, the tour is more than a performance. In between songs, Little will share how he got from where the students are to where he is today.
I was in a gun accident at 13, and I was in a car accident at 17, all in my high school years. So I feel I have the message for them that even with some trials in your life, you can still dream big and you can still go get what you want, even if it's something fun like playing guitar and singing songs.
The last leg of the tour wraps up on May 9th in Waskwesipik First Nation, north of Dauphin, Manitoba. And while the stops are short, Head says the impact is lasting.
To see the kids smiling and you could see that sparkle in their eye and you could see their minds rolling, and then you could see that the musicians are inspiring the youth.
Now that I finally understand my life with all the hardships as a youth, how I overcame it, and I think that's where this collaboration is going to work really well, is to just share how I did it, because that's what they need to hear, is how you overcome challenges and reach for the goal.
Anytime, anywhere, anyone, just make it happen.
Sierra Bettens, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Good stuff, great initiative there. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this weekend. Of course, for news anytime, you can visit our website, aptnnews.ca. And be sure to join us at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday. That's when Creason will have your first look at the day's news. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy McGuitch. Thanks for being with us. Enjoy the rest of your Super Bowl weekend.